Good morning, everyone. Um, Tasha Clemens here. I wanted to talk about my research questions. So I chose research questions related to cultural communication and cultural representations. As an educator, I work with Black children, many who are from low socioeconomic backgrounds, and it's important to me to understand how they see the world around them and what influences them to behave the way that they do. I seek to understand how they view themselves and the contributing factors that influence their identity and self-worth. I think a great deal of my research will come from that to help provide tools and strategies to educators to kind of help be able to relate and resonate with our young Black children. So the first research question I selected derived from the cultural communication section of the 775 qualitative data research prompts. How is multiculturalism communicated in educational materials? I narrowed this question scope to focus more on how the implicit messages about multiculturalism are conveyed through the illustrations and imagery in earlier childhood picture books. This topic is extremely important to me because I have a 2-year-old daughter. And in my household, as an English major, I'm intentional about promoting literature because I want my daughter to have a vast vocabulary so that she's able to articulate herself as she grows. And I want her to have a love for reading so that she can explore and learn more about others by vicariously living through the characters she's reading about. Through successful research, this question can help to bridge the gaps in society by instilling empathy in young readers toward other ethnicities and cultures. Researchers can learn and contribute to literature that challenge universal assumptions and understand how culture shapes perception, thought processes, and how others can have a sense of belonging in their communities. This research helps to bridge the gap between communication, sociology, and psychology by knowing how to resolve social problems and human behavior towards other race and ethnicities. The second research question I chose was, how do films communicate cultural stereotypes? In previous research and a separate course I took, I read a lot of literature on the evolution of Black movies and how Black people were portrayed in earlier film all the way up to modern times. The literature I discovered demonstrated how the portrayal of Black people in films influenced the perceptions of people, many in negative ways because of negative portrayals. Many stereotypes were derived from this portrayal, and for those who are not familiar with Black people, took on that information and it became their perception. Black people were often believed to be criminals, dangerous, promiscuous, and aggressive. So my interest in this question is also because I work with young children, young Black children of color, and I'm extremely interested in their identity and how they see themselves and the influencing factors that pretty much persuade what they feel about themselves, how they feel about themselves, and who they become. I often wonder if many of these children take on these personas because this is how they're used to seeing themselves and the others around them. This type of research will require robust methods to ensure validity and reliability because there are a great deal of Black children who do not come from low socioeconomic backgrounds. So as researchers, the population of children that must be studied need to be narrowed. Does this question pertain to a group of people from a certain group, from a certain culture, from a certain place? Are all the questions that need to be considered when thinking of methodology and how to go about the process to study this. The third question I chose is about how do advertisements reflect cultural stereotypes? This question is similar to cultural stereotypes in movies. Both questions can be narrowed in research for many race relations, how Asian people are portrayed, how people in the LGBTQ community are portrayed, how Christians are portrayed, how marginalized people are portrayed. Advertisement, cultural stereotypes can also be narrowed to the type of elements that reflect beauty in society or what is deemed beauty in society. For example, slender white women have historically been synonymous with what is beautiful. Full-bodied women and women of color do not have great representations in advertisements when it relates to what is beautiful. There have been a great deal of controversy with how white families are portrayed in comparison to Black families through advertisements. They do not seem to have a great deal of diversity with consumer products. Therefore, this should be studied to determine its impact on how society views other ethnic groups. My particular focus is still geared toward children when it pertains to this question because of the impact and influence it may have. I remember growing up and seeing cigarette commercials and advertisements with Blacks and Hispanics as users of the products, even Joe Camel catering to children. So understanding all these elements of culture is a huge focus of my research. When you think about the different variables, the different the different systems or populations to be studied to narrow it down, how general it is, and if it pretty much reflects a greater part of the population. With the way the world is today, there's a lot of hate, there's a lot of misunderstanding, there's a lot of there's a lack of diversity, where it is impacting our country and the world, because people are not able to empathize and understand other people. So all of these research questions will fill the gap of sociology and psychology, understanding human behavior, and what brings about the understanding of these people. So I am looking forward to your feedback, and I'm also looking forward to hearing your videos on the different questions and topics that you chose. Thank you.